right. Hi, guys. It's Heather Gilmer. I have been working this summer on creating an easy way for us to create our lesson plans and working together as a team so that it all comes into this really pretty little format and doesn't take as much time. So let's go ahead and get started. So the two programs that I'm using are Google. I'm using Google Docs as well as Google Forms. So what you have to do is first create a template of how you want your lesson plan to look. And this is just what I came up with. What it does, it's doing it for just one day. This is how I decided to do mine. You may want to create yours differently. That's all up to you. Let's see. And I'm sorry, I got the little baby in the background. So what I decided to do was to just make a date column and then the different content areas that I'll be teaching throughout the day. So my ELA block, which is like my whole group, where I do my read aloud, interactive read aloud, shared reading, interactive writing, all that jazz. Then my writer's workshop block, my literacy stations that I'm going to do, my math block, my science block, and social studies. When, you know, we kind of go back and forth between science and social studies, kind of just based on our pacing for the district. Jackson. Shh. All right, so creating this, what I wanted it to look like, I wanted to make sure that I had the standards that I was covering in each one of these blocks, the I can statement that I was going to use for the students, any vocabulary that I was going to teach the students, any kind of materials or lessons or digital files that I may need. Kind of brief description of what I'm going to do, if it's going to be a whole group, if it's going to be small group, if I'm going to differentiate, how that's going to look, just any kind of notes that it's going to help you understand what you're supposed to be doing during this lesson. And then an area for how am I going to assess with math, the Engage New York or NY Engage. I always mix that up. But the Engage math units, I could use the exit tickets. It's just a way to check and see if the kids understood the lesson for that day, or if you want to create your own. It's up to you. So that's what I basically wanted it to look like. Now you'll notice that these little colored areas, this is the information that I'm going to be entering into Google Forms. And I wanted it a different color, especially when it pops up and populates this template, just to kind of help it stand out. The questions I'm going to ask is, you know, like the ELA content. These are the standards. Then that purple, it's going to print out in purple on the I can statement. So it just, I made it a different color just so that I can see it. It's just, that's how my brain works, but it's what works best for you. Now you'll notice that I'm not sure of the actual correct terminology for these little doolollies, but we'll just call them little doolollies. They are the little symbols that are beside that P on your keyboard. If you hit Shift, they're the top one where it has that little doololly sticking out from it. It's like a parentheses bracket combination thingy. So sorry, don't know the correct terminology, but you need to put two of those. And then what the question is asking for in your form, and you close it up. So it's saying, hey, this is the information that's coming from the form is going to be populated in this area for your template. And so I did that in all of these different areas. And you're like, how do I know? How do I do that? So we're going to go over that. But the first thing you needed to do is create a template. It's like, how do you want it to look when it prints out? So the next thing you needed to do is to go into Google Forms. And if you've never done that before, it's pretty simple, really self-explanatory. You can create any kind of questions. I made questions for the kids to answer comprehension questions after reading and put it on Google Classroom. The kids really loved it. So it's really, really simple to use. First graders can do it. We can totally handle it, ladies. All right. So I made it titled Lesson Plan. And the first question that I wanted it to ask was the date. So what date are we actually planning for? And if you see, it's called date. And if you go back here to your template that we made, over here, it's got in these little doolally bracket thingies, the date. And I'm going to pick her up because she's getting a little fussy. I'm sorry, guys. So the information that I enter into that Google form gets populated into that area for the date. Okay. Okay. All right. So the next question that I asked had to do with the content area. And you can see that I created like a new section after this. It's because I connected questions based on your answer or what you choose here in this content area. It gets connected. So if you choose ELA, it's only going to ask you questions about that ELA column. So if you look, ELA, you're only going to be answering the ELA questions, the ELA standards, the ELA I can statement, the ELA vocabulary, the ELA materials, the ELA description, ELA assessment, kind of catch on to what's going on there. So, but if you're not doing that, if you choose to do math block, it would only ask you about the math block questions that you want to populate into this field. So based on what you choose here, it'll take you to the different areas. And I can help you set this up, or you are more than welcome to use what I already have in place. The only thing is I've set it up for first grade, so I don't have your standards if you teach fifth grade or if you teach third grade. I can show you how to enter those in. It's really, really, really simple. So that it'll be corrected. But it just saves us time from having to go in and type in all those letters and numbers and then like, okay, what is it that we're covering? Because it's been entered in here once, I just do the checkbox, boom, it's done. So I've done that for all the different concept areas of all those standards. And these are the new standards that we are going to go to this year, the new North Carolina Standard Course of Study. And so got them populated, and I've worked on the literature and the informational text because this is for the ELA block where I do my interactive read aloud and shared reading and interactive writing. So these are the concepts that I'm going to be covering during that block. Yes, I'll be covering some other reading foundational skills, but the main thing that I am focusing on is going to be these standards during that time. And you can see ELA statement, I can statement, so you'll populate it. So this is how you just first create these different questions. If you'll look after the ELA assessment, I have the section going back up to the top where it says lesson plan. This allows you to go back. You can enter in another content area or you can submit the form. Because it's all connected and it'll take you all the way back every time you complete one section, one content section, I had to come back and create a choice for submit form. This will work. It took me a little bit to figure out how to, if we're having multiple people like doing a jigsaw planning, as long as you all put the same date, I can show you, and I'll show you a little later in this tutorial, how to print it out so that it comes out as, you know, we're all planning for this particular date. And, you know, maybe this teacher planned writing and this teacher planned math and this teacher planned the social studies for that day or that week. And so I've got it so that I can print it out just based on that date value. So there they are, and it took a lot. I did every single content area and did all the different questions that you needed to answer for each one of those content areas. I did not make anything required because some things you need and some things you do not. So I'm going to go up here. And so you can see what it looks like when you go live or go into actually entering in the data. This is what it looks like. You've got your editing screen, which is this, and you can't go in and enter in the stuff. This is just you creating the form. This is what it looks like when it's ready to receive information. Okay, and because I'm the creator, I'm the one that can go in and change it. Depending on when you share it with your team, you may just make them be able to enter in information and not necessarily edit or change the format of that Google form. So if you look here, I know I've already done some planning for 7:30. So if you click the little down arrow, it'll take you to the calendar. So no more trying to figure out, okay, am I planning for Thursday or am I planning for Tuesday? The cool little calendar pops up automatically. So I already did some math planning and some writing planning for July 30th, my little test. So I'm going to still go in and do July 30th. And like I said, I've already done math and writer's workshop. So let's go into the ELA, that first block. If I hit next, it's going to take me into the questions for the ELA content. And remember, this is where I do my read aloud, shared reading, and interactive writing. And so here are all the different standards for literacy or literature and informational text. And so maybe I'm working on this one where I'm going to use illustrations and details in the story to describe the characters, setting, or events. And maybe describe the characters and setting and major events in the story by using key details. Maybe those two go together. So I'm going to work on those two standards, and you can click as many as you want. I liked doing it that way instead of doing a drop-down box because this allows you to put in multiple standards. Then the I can statement. So I can retell a story using key details from the text. And I'm doing this one-handed because I got a baby in the other hand. Sorry. So hit next. Any kind of vocabulary. So maybe this is the first time that you guys have talked about key details. So key details would be a vocabulary word that I want to cover. Go over what a retell is. Maybe that's something new. And if you want to put in the actual definitions, or if you want to put in student create definitions. So maybe making it student friendly, and you guys come up with the it might help if I actually spell things correctly. Come up with a definition together. And then what materials am I going to need? So this would be, if you're going to have an actual book, and because we use the Engage units, I could type in the link to the to that unit that I have in my Google Drive. So I'm just going to do bad case of stripes because I just read that. Like I said, I'm doing this with one hand, so sorry I am not doing it with the correct punctuation and capitalization. Sorry. Then what are you doing during this lesson? This could be like a brief overview. You can be as detailed as you want to be. I made it paragraph form, so you can type into your little, till the cows come home, or to your little heart's content. You can be as detailed or as less detailed, just depending on your preference. So I'm just going to put, just because read text twice, partner up, retail with pictures. Okay. And then how you're going to assess, maybe there is a an activity. So you just maybe put retail activity, cut and paste. You could also link that in and say, hey, I want to put this link in there so that it automatically pulls up. So then you hit next. And then it should take you back up to the top because you answered all the questions for the ELA. So I know I've already done previously I've done writing, I've done math, now I've done ELA. So let's throw in stations. Hit next. Okay, again, these are your foundational things because that's what I do a lot of work on. I still work on the literature and the informational text things. But because I've already said that that's what I'm working on during my ELA block, it just kind of carries over into the stations for me. I just want to hit what different reading foundational skills that I'm going to be working on during stations. So distinguish long and short vowel sounds. Okay, and so next. And so these are the different types of station work that I do during my station time. So I always have sight word work, and maybe I want them to roll and write sight words. So I click that. And this is something I've already introduced to the kids. They already know how to do this. This is just for my lesson plan, so I know what's going on. What are they going to be doing words their way? So this is another thing that I've already taught them how to do these things. So today we are going to sort and record. And then read to self. Again, already been taught the procedures and what I want them to do. So maybe it is do a story map, the character setting, problem solution. So that ties into what we did as a whole group with the Bad Case of the Stripes. And then I'll always have a response to reading. And so I'll put the cut and paste activity. That was my assessment. But they're going to do it during stations. And it takes you back. All right. So pretty much the only thing I haven't planned for that day is science and social studies, but I want to go ahead and get into what does it look like to populate your lesson plan. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit form. It's going to ask you to submit. And there it goes. So it'll come back here. So what you need to do is go into the editing screen and click here where it says responses, because this is all the information that you have entered into this form. What it typically does is it puts it into a Google Sheets format where it's got all the different questions as your headers, and then what you have entered in for the different things. And you can see this is what I did before. I planned a little bit for 7:30, and then this is what we just did together for 7:30. So I don't want to have the 31st information in my lesson plan for the 30th. I only want the 7:30. So to do that, and sorry, internet's a little slow, I'm going to go up here to data, and I want to filter it. I only want to pull July 30th information into my lesson plan. Or I could do 7:30, 30 and the 31st, because I've already entered in all the stuff I wanted for the 31st. All right, so let's do that so that if you want to print out a whole entire week's. So I'm going to turn off my filter. And then, and you can see I've entered in a lot of different things here. I've been playing around with it a lot. Sorry, you hear a little grumpalumpus here beside of me. So I want to create a filter. And then you go up here, you see this little kind of drop down arrow doolally. If I click this, it's going to say, okay, so what exactly do you want? Well, I don't want the 2nd, I don't want the 3rd, and I don't want the 5th, and I don't want the 26th. I want to do the 30th and the 31st. So then it just pulls those dates. So the next thing you need to do is have an add-on. This add-on is called Document Studio. It is safe for or accepted by Asheboro City Schools because I've already attached it to my Asheboro City School username and stuff. So to get that, you'll just go to here to Get Add-ons. And then here, Search Add-ons, you'll do the Document Studio. And there it is. And so I think it'll say add-on or upload or whatever it is, the terminology that I use on here. And so you would click it. I already have it, so I'm not going to hit click, but it adds it on. So I'm going to close that out. And then it'll show up the next time you go here to add on, it will be there. So I'm going to hit Document Studio, hit open. She's giggling now. And this will come up over here on the side. So the first thing you want to do is document merge. And what it'll do is it will populate this for you already. It's based on your different headers that you have here. And when you were making your Google Forms, this is what your different section headers were. You can look right here. Oh, let's go here to questions so you can see how it all relates. I need it. So materials needed, and if you go, it's all right. I know. You go, no, that's not where we're at, right here. It'll be ELA materials and ELA vocabulary. So all of this is populated by these different headers, which is populated by your Google form information. Okay, so that does it for you. And you can see those little doolalies that we talked about, how it's got 2 little doolalies. That lets you know that the information that pops up in that cell for that particular column is what's going to populate inside of your lesson plan. So everything has to match up perfectly. You can't just do I can statement because it doesn't match up to the WW I can statement, which stood for Writer's Workshop I can. So go down a little further. All right. This is where you can choose. I just like to make it a PDF file. That's just, but you can make it a Google document. You can make it a Microsoft Word, plain text file. It's up to you. If you want to make it a Google Doc, and so you can do some type of editing to it, because, you know, once you get it in a PDF, then you have to download it so that you can change or do whatever you need to it. But just because I know that I'm happy with the way it looks, I'm going to leave it as a PDF. Then we're going to upload to Google Drive. And this is where you can select where you want it to go. I've already got mine going into my 1819 first grade folder, but what it'll do is it'll let you choose where you want it to go, and you can oop, my bad. So I don't know where I want it to go. I don't want it to go into Reading A to Z books. So you can go 2018. Guess what, Mommy? Honey, I'm recording right now. Okay, I'm recording right now. Thank you. Thank you, sweetie. Oh, and you'll see right here, this is my folder, the 1819 first grade. I can't remember what it was called. And that's where I have it going. I don't want it to go into interim reports. My drive. I guess because I've got it already going in there, I can't re-put it in there. So you can choose, but mine's going into my 1819. You can choose what yours is. You can share your file with your teammates. Now I want to save my configuration. And I want to merge it now. And the merge is taking all these different answers and putting it into one document. So I'm going to click Run Merge. Okay, the settings are saved, and now they are merging. You can see row 14. Okay, the merge is complete. So now I can go into my 1819 folder. And this is the one. Thinking. Nope. Is this one that I just did? Yeah. Is it that one? Gotta look and figure out which one. 311. So it's this one. The standards. That didn't work. Hold on. I think I chose the wrong one. See, here it is. That's the one that I did earlier. And here's what we populated here. It's a retail, student work sample. That's there. And then you can print it out. Sorry, I'm trying to do this all one-handed. I'll reload to make sure. That it got in there. That's not the one that I did. Okay, I gotta stop.